Hey guys, welcome to some interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Varus supplementary guide, and today we'll be covering AP Varus. So, I'm sorry I haven't been making videos in the past couple of days after the tier list, because basically I got sick with cough, so I couldn't really record videos, but I'm pretty much okay now, and I'm going to be bringing you guys this Varus video, obviously, and we're also going to be covering a new Kaisa build pretty soon. Not really new, but it's just rushing Runaan's Hurricane. Instead, we'll talk more about that in the Kaisa video itself, but even though I've recovered, I am pretty busy this period, so not too sure how many videos I can make during this period itself, so probably won't be as much like alternate day videos anymore, but we'll have to see about that. Anyways, enough about all that nonsense. Now we're gonna get into the build, the runes, and the spells for AP Varus. So the reason why AP Varus pretty much works is because in the past couple of patches they buffed, I believe it was his W, AP scaling especially, and like something else, but I can't remember exactly what it is. But basically, this made AP Varus kind of viable. So what are my feelings towards AP Varus? I'll cover that a little bit more in the gameplay, but we're just first going to talk about the build. So the first step to building AP Varus is you first go for the Nash's Tooth. So Nash's Tooth gives you the attack speed to allow you to auto attack people, which allows you to put the Blight stacks onto people, which allows you to of course proc for that huge burst of AP. Aside from that, AP ability Haste and Bite. So Bite of course gives you unhit magic damage when you basic attack people, again very useful. Next up we go for the Riftmaker. So Riftmaker gives you health, AP ability Haste, and Omnivent, but the main reason you build Riftmaker is for the true damage. So of course, when you're in combat for 3 seconds, you get a bonus 9% true damage, and that is really where this item shines for Varus, because when you go for your full one-shot combo, you ult someone, and then you activate your W, attack them probably once, and then you pop the 3 stacks with a arrow, and by that time 3 seconds has passed, and you will be able to proc the true damage on Riftmaker as well. Next up for the boots, honestly, I'm not completely sure on this one, but defensive boots on Varus kind of suck anyways, so I would say it's either Lucidity boots or the boots of Furor, and of course, obviously you go for the Stasis, because of course Varus is really squishy, and you can very easily just get caught, and the Stasis is going to come in really handy. Next up, obviously you go for Rabadon's Death Cap, general standard AP third item on any kind of AP build for the huge injection of AP, and of course the increased AP by 40%. And then this is where you gotta get the Void Staff, again more AP, and of course the Magic Penetration. These two are really standard AP items, don't think I have to explain that too much. And finally, if you actually get all the way to the final part of the build, I like going for an Infinity Orb. This of course gives you again more Magic Penetration, but of course it allows you to crit against people who are below 35% health, which is where the kind of full one-shot comes in. Now generally, Varus Power Spike is at 3 items, so on like first 2 items you really aren't that strong. You need to get to the Death Cap to really be really strong and start one-shotting people, and then of course every item after that you're going to be really strong as well. So another option you have is, as the last item, is of course the Guardian Angel. If you feel that you need that revive and you're getting popped really quickly, then Guardian Angel is of course an option as well. Another option you have is of course something like a Morellonomicon for the anti-heal, but since you're pretty much just one-shotting people anyway, I never really saw the need to get a Morellonomicon because you're gonna burst them anyways. Same goes with something like a Lichbane. Lichbane is technically a possibility, however, since you're basically just one-shotting people anyways, you don't really need the Lichbane, but you do auto-attack quite a little bit, just not really in between spells, so you can still make a little bit of use of Lichbane, but I think that Infinity Orb is simply the best option. Okay, so now let's talk about the runes. So for your Keystone, you really have 2 options, and I'm honestly not sure which is the better option, because I really only played 1 match of AP Varus, which is a gameplay you're going to see in a moment's time, and I don't ever plan on playing AP Varus again, because I really don't like AP Varus, but I'm doing it, of course, number 1 to test it out, and number 2, of course, for the content. So the 2 possible runes is number 1, Kraken Slayer. So Kraken Slayer, of course, every 3 attacks you do get true damage. And the way this works is, of course, you got the attack speed from Nashor's Tooth, and you gotta attack people to stack up your Blight stacks anyways, aside from, of course, ulting them straight in the face. So you can proc Kraken Slayer quite a bit, especially after you've done your full burst combo. You run out of cooldowns, you basically just stand there and start attacking whoever you can. You can proc Kraken Slayer quite a bit. Now your other option is, of course, Conqueror. Now both of these don't really tie into his burst mage kind of identity, because Conqueror you gotta stack up to 6 stacks, and when you stack up to 6 stacks you get the Omnivamp and you get the extra AP. Now the Omnivamp you don't really care too much about, but the extra AP, like in the late game, can be like 40 something AP when you get Conqueror fully stacked. And if you are in a fight for a long duration, which sometimes you are, because if you're safely in the backline, you can stay in a fight for relatively long, and having a full stack Conqueror will increase your damage by a lot. My personal choice here is going to be Kraken Slayer, because you can of course proc the Kraken Slayer quite a bit even in a long fight, and it's just a little bit more consistent. Like in the laning phase, for example, it's not that hard to get in 3 auto attacks on the enemy champion, and also in late game fights, true damage is always going to be helpful. So I like to go for the Giant Slayer on my domination rune, because against tankier teams, of course, because this is going to boost my damage onto them a whole ton. And if I don't go for this, I'm probably just going to go for Triumph, which is going to increase my one-shot potential yet again. Then I like going for Bone Plating on Varus, because generally, I like to say that generally you are pretty far back, even on the AP version that you auto-attack on. So you generally should not get your Bone Plating procced too often, and getting that anti-burst on the Bone Plating is really, really useful. And finally, for your last rune, you need to get Mana Flow banned, because you are very, very mana hungry, and in this build, you don't, of course, have the Mana Mune, you don't have any tier items, so you're gonna run out of mana really, really quickly, so you need the Mana Mune for that Mana Sustain. And of course, for the spells, we go for the Flash, and we go for the Exhaust, really standard stuff. So with all that out of the way, we can jump straight on into the gameplay. Okay, so here, of course, we have the gameplay itself, and it's just a small point that I forgot to mention just now when I was talking about the Morellonomicon, which is that of course you generally don't go for that as well, because you have the Grievous Wounds on your E already, so you don't really need to actually buy a Grievous Wounds item, but it completely slipped my mind, so probably Morellonomicon is not really the best option for Varus in particular. And yeah, so here we're gonna get into the gameplay. Now obviously, I feel I should get rid of saying this at the start. Obviously, you only ever want to play AP Varus if your team has no AP. If not, you always want to play like AD, Lethality Varus, or some other ADC. In this case, we got a Nautilus, we got a Xin Zhao, we got a Nasus, all of which do no AP damage, and we have a Yone which somewhat has AP damage. So no real true AP damage deal on my team, so I decided to go for the AP Varus, of course, to test it out and see how it goes. So here against a Draven Thresh lane, which is a kill lane. Now, in general, Varus does pretty well against Draven, because he can poke out the Draven such that Draven cannot actually contest. But because I'm building AP Varus, my arrow is barely going to actually do any damage. So kind of that's the issue here, and also the fact that I'm not actually landing my arrows. So Thresh gets a good hook into Flay. Let's Nautilus take a bit of damage. Draven gets in 1 auto attack on me, and I'm already getting destroyed. Of course, you know, Draven does a whole load of damage, and I predict Draven wrong, and I launch arrow in the wrong direction again. And here I nearly die. I flash out, but I end up actually getting the bait in, and they actually committed, which actually allows Xin Zhao to come in and pick up a double kill. Now I got to be honest there, I did not actually do that fully intentionally. I didn't know Xin Zhao was in the area, but you know, junglers don't normally come to gank after 2 camps, so I was not exactly expecting him to come, but you know, hey, it all worked out in the end, not complaining here. So Xin Zhao picks up a double, we get 2 assists, and we don't die. Did have to blow the flash though, but that's fine, and we're all good. So, what are my thoughts on AP Varus? As I mentioned just now, I will be covering that in the gameplay, which is, of course, right now. So, personally, I don't like AP Varus at all. Now, the first aspect of why I don't like AP Varus is because I'm very used to AD Varus. Like, my idea of Varus identity is a poke champion who uses the arrows to just poke people down. But when you play AP Varus, you are not like that at all. You basically become a burst mage. Like, you use your ult to get stacks onto people, you hit W, and you just arrow someone, and they just get instantly one shot. So and arrows don't really do any damage unless they're popping your blighted stacks. So if you full charge an arrow, launch it straight into someone's face, it's barely gonna tickle them. Even if they're a squishy target, let's say the Draven, it's barely gonna do any damage even when you're late game, because your damage all comes from your W, which is the, of course, blighted quiver. So when you stack up the blight stacks either through your auto attacks or through your ultimate and you pop that, that's where all your AP damage comes from. So that's sort of the main issue I have with AP Varus. Of course, I didn't actually mention this in the build or intro section of the video, but your maxing order on AP Varus is you're gonna max W first, because as I've mentioned multiple times already, all your damage comes from popping them stacks. So you need to max your W, then you max Q, then you max E. So a little bit different from AD Varus. And of course you up your ultimate whenever you can. That one is pretty obvious. And yeah, so the second issue I have with AP Varus is the fact that there are so many other better options than AP Varus. Now, the good example is Corki. Corki is extremely strong at the moment, way stronger than Varus. Corki has a lot more DPS and is a lot closer to the ADC compared to Varus that's a lot closer to a burst mage. And if you want to play AP Varus, you might as well just play a mage in the bot lane like Ziggs or Karma or something. The only real benefit Varus brings is he does have that Chain of Corruption, which is his ultimate, which is a very huge teamfight tool, gives you a lot of CC in teamfights if you can spread the chain throughout the enemy team, or if you can get a pick onto one important target with the Chain of Corruption. That is pretty huge. So that is really the only reason why you would pick Varus over any of these other champions. Maybe another reason is if you enjoy playing Varus, but aside from that, if you're simply playing Varus like me to fulfill your team's AP needs or something like that, then I would rather play Corki, because Corki is also a harder carry champion than Varus. Varus is a lot more utility compared to Corki because he does have that ultimate, but Corki does, I would say Corki does a lot more damage than Varus and a lot more consistent damage. He has a lot more uptime, whereas Varus has a lot of downtime where he doesn't really do a lot of damage. Like after you use one full burst combo, you're not going to be doing damage for a long while. Basically, this makes Varus a mage. So after you use all your spells as a mage, you're pretty much useless because your auto attacks barely do damage. Now in the case of Varus, he does have a Kraken Slayer and he does have Nashor's too, so his auto attack will do some kind of damage, but just not a whole lot. So here anyway, you guys can see we do get the kill onto the Thresh, and we try to kill Draven as well. Now the major mistake I make here is pretty much two mistakes. The first mistake is not exhausting the Draven earlier. So he did get quite a bit of damage onto me while he wasn't exhausted. And number two, missing my arrow. So because I missed my arrow, I don't get to pop my stacks, and because of that, there's no chance I kill Draven. The moment I missed the Q, I knew that it was all over for me and I died. So you will see in this gameplay that I'm really not good at AP Varus because I'm really used to playing AD Varus. Now as you guys know, I can play AD Varus pretty well. I have made quite a number of videos on him, and some pretty recently as well, like the Serpent's Fang ones. And I do have Mastery 5 on Varus, so I am an okay Varus player. However, I really am not used to playing the AP version of Varus. I'm not really used to the fact that my arrow barely does damage, and I have to get up close and personal to constantly auto attack people to give them the stacks so that I can pop them stacks. Really not used to doing that, so I'm kind of a little bit out of my comfort zone in this particular match. But hey, you know, as I said, I don't like AP Varus, and after this match, after this gameplay, I'm probably never gonna play AP Varus again. Here, I somehow managed to miss the Draven who is stationary from my ultimate. I have no idea how, and because of that I get destroyed by Draven again. I think if I can actually hit that on Draven, I think that would have actually bursted him down at least a significant amount to like a 1 HP kind of level instead of just being at half HP. Anyways, here more shenanigans happens. Thresh and Draven chase all the way in, Nautilus with the bait, and Xin Zhao comes in for the cleanup, gets the kill onto the Nautilus, jumps right over onto Draven, gives him the knockup, gives him the ultimate, and kills the Draven as well. Xin Zhao getting really fed at the moment, 5-2 and 2 at the moment with the Triforce completed. And yeah, so here, just going back to our usual farming routine, going just to clear the wave and just go about our business. So as I mentioned in the build section of the video, you really are only strong when you hit 3 items. Before you hit 3 items, you aren't really one-shotting anybody. So you pretty much just have to survive until you reach 3 items. Which is another reason why I think like Corki is better, because you don't necessarily have to hit 3 items to be strong. You can be strong earlier than that. So anyways, we hit the Chain of Corruption and we do get the kill. Here we flash forward again, 3 stacks onto Lee Sin, we pop the stacks. Here we're stacking onto the Draven, 2 stacks, and we pop the stacks again, and we again get another kill onto the Draven. We get ourselves the triple, we got full stacks on the Veigar. We do go for the snipe onto the Veigar. We do actually hit the Veigar, but as you guys can see from the replay, he's left at pretty much 1 HP and he does actually survive. So nearly got a quadra kill there, which is pretty surprising by my own standards. So we're now 5-2-2, suddenly got a huge injection of gold off of that triple kill. And now we can back and get ourselves more item components. So here we can get the Haunting Guys as well as the Fiendish Codex. Of course, I'm nearly completing our entire Rift Maker outright. So here, again, despite what we just witnessed, which is that triple kill there, we know that Varus isn't very strong before he hits 3 items, so what we want to do is to play relatively safe. Now, I say that, but throughout the whole match you will see that I don't exactly play relatively safe, because I have to be in auto attack range, and while Varus doesn't have the worst attack range in the world, he doesn't really have the best attack range either, so he's sort of like a middle of the pack ADC in terms of attack range. So you have to get pretty up close and personal, not as bad as like a Lucian or a Kai'Sa, but you still have to get pretty close. So anyways, here I'm getting destroyed by Draven again. I'm gonna have to quickly run away, get sniped by his ultimate, and I'm pretty much put at half HP. So here, my team is coming to back me up, trying to come in with the collapse. I'm getting zoned out by the Veigar cage, but I'm trying to come around, and I do get to the Draven. I unfortunately miss my E because Draven did flash out. And here I get full stacks onto the Draven. I was trying to hit him with the Q, but my Q was on cooldown, so I ended up just dying to him again. Again, not a good look. And Draven picks up a quadra kill. Draven is now incredibly fat. He's 8-3-1 with the Slurry Charge Blade as well as the Bloodthirster already completed before he got that quadra kill, sorry. So now he's at 11k gold, a good 4k gold ahead of me and anybody else on my team. Essentially, the only good news here is that Yone and Xin Zhao are getting pretty fed on my team as well, but nowhere close to the Yone, nowhere close to the Draven, sorry. So we're kind of not really in the best of shapes at the moment, just because of how strong Draven is getting. Now, thankfully, we do have decent lockdown with Xin Zhao, with Nautilus, so Draven shouldn't be too huge of a problem if things go our way. Alright, so here, Rift Herald is up. Obviously, everybody is coming in to contest the Rift Herald. Here, the Renekton flashes onto me, and I pretty much just ult him in the face and just use my W and my Q to just snipe him out. At the same time, I managed to actually pick up the Rift Herald, and here my whole team dies. Draven tries to chase after me, so I'm going to have to quickly flash out. The Yone tries to go back in for some reason and gets instantly popped by the Draven, so that's no good. Using the Herald Implant Recall, I'm gonna get back to base real quick. In the meantime, Nasus is pretty much almost guaranteed to get dived here. 3 enemies are waiting, they have a full wave. Thresh hits the hook and yeah, there he goes. So here I was actually considering to defend top lane, but then I realized number 1, the dragon is up, and number 2, there's nothing I can do against like Thresh, Draven, Veigar anyways. Because if I go to defend top, it's going to be the exact same story as what happened to the Nasus, but even faster, because I'm way squishier than the Nasus. So speaking of the Nasus, a common trend you will see throughout this whole game is that excuse me, is that Nasus pretty much never ever joins us for any fights. He's only concerned about split pushing and stacking his Q. So you see, here we're all at the dragon fight, he goes to top lane, he's gonna farm them minions, and he's gonna continue stacking his Q. And it gets to a point where it's completely ridiculous how he only is trying to stack his Q. But what's the point if you're never gonna actually hit anybody with that Q, because you're never at the fights? So it makes no sense at all. So as you guys can see here, we're getting destroyed by the enemy team because we're permanently in a 4v5. So Nasus again, he's still split pushing, he doesn't really care what's going on. Yone does get the kill on Draven though, he gets the 1300 gold shutdown on the Draven, which is really good for accelerating Yone. Yone is at 3 items, he should be really strong now. And again, so our Nasus just wandering around doing his own thing and pretty much not joining us for a single fight so far after 12 minutes of the game. So at this point, I'm pretty pissed off at the Nasus. I'm typing in the chat, I'm telling him to join us for the fight because he has more than enough stacks at this point. And he's saying, oh no, I only have like 300 stacks. I gotta keep farming. Gotta keep stacking up. So this is something really annoying, I guess, when you see someone playing Nasus that behaves in that way. Because what is the point of getting like 500 stacks if you're never gonna actually use the stacks? Because you're never with us in the fight anyway. You're not tanking any damage. You're not doing any damage because you're not actually there in the fight. You're just using your stacks to bonk the tower, using your stacks to bonk the minions and get more stacks. So what's really the point? You know, there really is no point of stacking like 1,000 stacks if you're never gonna actually hit any enemies with it. So anyways, here we're back in the fight yet again, another 4v5 because where is Nasus? He's at top lane. So here, I get pretty much hit by every CC in the world, manage to stasis a bit of the damage, and the moment I get out, Veigar instantly hits me with a Q and I instantly just die. So here again, my team is struggling in the team fights because we are lacking a member. We are fighting 4v5 permanently. And here Xin Zhao decides that he's fair enough that he's gonna go in 1v3. So here he goes in on Veigar. Thresh doesn't even need to land the hook and Xin Zhao just dies. So here again, Nasus, he's pushing, he's stacking. Somehow he hasn't even gotten the first tier tower yet. Not too sure how. So he ults to get the first tier tower. And meanwhile, the rest of us are going back to the dragon area where the mountain dragon has been up for a considerable amount of time. Now, Nasus finally actually makes himself useful by simply attracting the attention of the enemy team. So here the enemy Thresh, Renekton, and Draven actually are pulled to top to actually handle, so-called quote-unquote handle the Nasus. Although in my opinion not too much to handle. So this actually gives us a number advantage for the first time at the dragon. The issue is that our jungle is dead, so we can't simply do the dragon. My team doesn't really understand that, so they are focusing the dragon and Lee Sin comes in, smites the dragon, gets... he doesn't actually get away because I do actually end up killing the Lee Sin and the Veigar, but all the same the enemy team picks up the dragon and they have the two most important dragons, Mountain and Inferno. But thankfully the rest of the enemy team randomly face checks into our team, so because of that we can get a couple of more kills. So overall, mistakes made on both teams. For some reason Yone insisted on bursting down the dragon even though there's no way we can outsmite a Lee Sin who has smite when we don't have any smite. But at the same time the enemy team all runs into us one by one and all ints their lives away, so again, mistakes made on both sides. It's a really messy game. And now, again, at this point, item check. We haven't got to our third item, Death Cap, yet. We are still only at Nashor's Tooth and Riftmaker. We do have the stasis completed now, for some time now actually. And we're still trying to get towards our Death Cap. Now we're 9, 5, and 9 at 11k gold. Decent amount of gold. Decent progress in the item build, decent KDA, but not quite at that one-shot point yet. We really need that Death Cap and we need it soon. Meanwhile, Draven is at 4 completed items and building towards a GA from the looks of it. He's of course at 16k gold, a country mile ahead of where we are, but that's just the nature of how Draven's passive works, so not too much I can really do about that. So here, because we had no vision of the enemy team for so long, I actually suspected they were on Baron, but the moment we went to face check Baron, they all appeared bot. So it turns out they weren't actually on Baron, but good to check anyways. So here the enemy team kind of split up across the bottom side of the map. Nasus is back to his split pushing in the top lane, still has yet to join us in a team fight somehow. And I have no idea what he really is doing. He's now going for the tier 2, and the enemy team instead is going for us. Now I guess on the bright side of this is the fact that we are actually kind of distracting the enemy team for Nasus to kind of split push. Now Nasus does actually end up recalling before the enemy team gets to him, so and the Nemesis duel actually triggers. Anyways, here the Renekton tries to dive backline again, the backline being me. I ult him in the face again and he dies again. It's kind of a common trend of what Renekton has been doing the whole match and will continue to do the whole match, which is dive me in the backline but get ulted and pretty much get killed. Although he does do a significant amount of damage to me whenever he does this, so it's not really the worst in the world. Lee Sin tries to come in, I ult him, and honestly, without Lee Sin's gargoyle, I would have actually killed him there because I do have the Death Cap now and I do have a pretty high amount of burst. So in my opinion, just a tad unlucky he had that gargoyles, and because of that I couldn't actually burst him down in time and he does get the kill onto me. So here 1v1 against from Draven versus Yone, the two most fed members of each team. Draven barely wins out the 1v1. He was left at 1 HP by the Yone, which is really unfortunate for us. Yone, by the way, doesn't actually have any boots somehow. I'm not too sure how, but he doesn't actually have any boots. Anyways, he's basically at full build is the Yone, except for his boot and chat. And meanwhile, we're at our 3 item power spike, so we should be doing pretty good now in terms of the one shots. Hopefully, we can show you guys a one shot sooner or later. And here again, I suspected the enemy team was on the Baron, but yet again, enough of them show up in the mid lane in Vision to kind of show that they aren't actually on Baron. So now I'm trying to clear out this wave so that it doesn't push into our inhibitor. And I'm going to rotate to join my team. Now at this point, all we want to do is make sure we always stay grouped as a team in 5v5. Now, of course, we know that Nasus pretty much isn't cooperating on that account. So there's really not too much we can do. The Nemesis duel between Renekton and Nasus is still active, by the way. So Renekton is down pushing bot lane. And decides Nasus and Renekton end up in a scuffle against each other. Unfortunately for Renekton, he overextends and runs into our entire team, allows Nasus to pick up the kill, and Nasus wins the Nemesis duel, giving his Q AoE damage, which is actually absolutely huge. The only issue is that, yet again, that doesn't actually matter if Nasus isn't actually with us in fights. So, you know, it doesn't really matter too much at the end of the day. I guess it does matter that Renekton doesn't get that extra fury, so I guess that is something. At least we denied the enemy something. So here, everybody's kind of grouped up in the red side jungle, and something looks like, you know, a fight looks like it's about to break out, and again, it does. So here, we're trying to get a catch onto the Draven, but unfortunately Thresh comes in to protect his friend, and here I try to get the snipe off, doesn't quite work out. But I do manage to ult the Lee Sin. Lee Sin does get his GA proc. I attack the only champion I can reach, which is Thresh. Lee Sin flashes out. A lot of low health bars. Yone goes in. I flash in to try to follow up, but the issue is Yone dies. Now I'm left high and dry. The whole enemy team pretty much lives on 1 HP. Veigar 1 HP, Thresh 1 HP. I believe Draven was 1 HP just now as well, and he managed to recall, so now he's at full HP. Really unlucky fight. If that fight happened in a different way, could have been like an even trade, but ends up that no one on the enemy team died and all 4 of us died, and only Nautilus is left alive. Now this is really bad because Elder Dragon is spawning, so this basically gives them a free objective. They can go for Baron or they can go for Elder, and we can't really stop them because there's still 15-second death timers on 3 of us. We all actually assumed that they were going for Elder, but turns out they actually went for Baron instead. Now, that's a minor spoiler, but you guys are going to find out in about 5 seconds anyway when the Baron slain thing comes up. Right on cue, here we go, the enemy team slain Baron Nashor, so they did actually go for Baron instead. Now, this, in my opinion, wasn't the smartest move, because now, since Elder Dragon is up, all of them with their Baron buffs are forced to team fight into us at the Elder Dragon. Now, this gives them the chance to lose the Baron buffs that they just got without actually using it. So here I spot out Lee Sin. I'm going for the Chain of Corruption on Lee Sin, and I snipe him out to make sure that he dies, so they don't have a smite. So here Renekton goes in on me again. I end up trading 1 for 1 with Renekton, which is not too bad. In the meantime, my team pretty much kills everybody on their team. Only Thresh is left alive. So exactly what I said. The entire enemy team loses their Baron aside from Thresh, and we get the Elder Dragon on everybody except for me. It's a 1 for 4 trade. Trade I'll take any day of the week, even though I was the one that died. But yeah, I'll take it any day of the week. And here, honestly, my team is in a position to end the game. We do have a wave in mid. If everybody pushes mid, we might be able to actually end the game. Xin Zhao is going to push bot instead. The only kind of minor issue is the Thresh Baron is kind of baroning up the minions, making them harder to clear. Anyways, Thresh actually does an amazing move by flaying the minions out of the range and taking the minion aggro, which basically means that we don't have minions in the tower range to end the game with, and because of that, the enemy team manages to respawn and actually wreak havoc on our team. Everybody dies aside from Yone and Xin Zhao, and as you guys can see over here, let me pan the camera over to the base. Only 300 HP left in on the base. So if the Thresh didn't flay the minions out, the game would have been over right then and there. So the Thresh literally saved the game for their team. Of course, on my side of the team, it's kind of a little bit frustrating. We had the game won, and a little bit of better decision making probably would have won us the game. Like if everybody turned around and focused the Thresh so the minions could come back in, we would have won the game there. But of course, you know, these are very thin margins. I'm not blaming anybody for this. If I was there, I might have done the same thing, which is, of course, to just focus the base. So really hard to say what would have happened, you know, but it's all, it is what it is. It's all done. So here we're back focusing on how we can now proceed on to win the game. So here I have the Void Staff completed as well. Now there's not really any magic defense on the enemy team, but we do have a couple of tanky lads on the enemy side. We have, of course, the Thresh and the Renekton, so getting ourselves the Void Staff is still a pretty good purchase, and I'm still gonna go for that. And here I want to group with my team, but before that I de-pushed the top wave because without doing that, there was a possibility that the huge stacked wave will end up getting the inhibitor sooner or later. My team collapses on Renekton for a free kill, but the whole enemy team is trying to push down mid. So here I'm here trying to kind of defend the mid lane if I can. Now here, unfortunately, I get caught by the Flay. I do flash away so I don't get kicked into the enemy team. I stasis, and I do manage to get my ult and arrow off to kill the Thresh before I escape. So here I'm going to just pan to the fight because I'm just going back to base to get my health and mana back. My team goes on to the chase for the final couple members of the enemy team. Veigar is getting chased down. Veigar is gone. And now Draven and Lee Sin are left alive. Lee Sin trying to recall but doesn't quite work out. For him, Lee Sin's at really low. Here my team ends up catching up to Draven. And Draven pops the stasis, but at this point he has no way out. So there he goes. Only Lee Sin is left alive on the enemy team, and this should be where we can push down mid and end the game if nothing goes wrong. So Renekton unfortunately has respawned, so a little bit of a problem in the plan. So here I exhaust the Lee Sin the moment he comes in. He goes down. Renekton also goes down, and here we're just gonna go ahead and try to end the game. Now Thresh comes forward, flays me, and pretty much just kinda semi one-shots me, but anyways, the minions will end the game even if the champions do not. So there we go, a really hard-fought victory. A lot of kills, a lot of deaths on my end, but we do end up getting an A, and we do end up doing a lot of damage based on how much gold we got, as you guys will see in the stats. So I'll leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.